Two, one, here we go. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Tech Talks. I'm Victor here with Julie, and we have a good one for you today, actually. It is about Google
And YouTube.
and YouTube.
Things that have been going on this past week.
Yeah, and it actually is pretty bleak when you think about it. And here we'll start off with just listing a few things that have happened in the past week with YouTube, and then we'll go through them one by one. So we had a YouTube. This has actually been going on for a while, but it's been made prominent to me by a specific YouTuber who got hacked, and his account was taken control of. And this is actually something that's been going on for 2 weeks. He just posted a video about it, and I only learned about the last few days of it.
So wait, are we listing right now?
Yeah, we're listing. Okay. You have the Google YouTube banning Google accounts, not just YouTube accounts, for spam. And you have Google accounts. Also, the terms of service of YouTube has been updated to include that YouTube accounts and Google accounts can be deemed bannable or shut down if the YouTube deems them not commercially viable.
Profitable.
Yeah, commercially viable is the terminology that they use in terms of service, and or they also reiterate that they are not required to host your videos. So that and a couple other things, but those are going to be the main three. We'll start off with the hacking, because this is something that wasn't YouTube's fault, but there was definitely things that we found out during this process that highlighted some flaws that YouTube might have.
Whose fault was it?
So
how did this happen?
What happened was there was a YouTuber called Marco Style. He fell for a phishing scam.
Oh yes, okay, I do remember you saying that.
And what they did is they had him. It was an email scam about doing an ad for influencers and things like that. They often get promotions on doing an ad for certain companies. So he had this email trying to do an ad for some company or whatever, and he
unfortunately took the bait.
Yeah, he took the bait, and they sent him a link that was to log into his YouTube account, but the link actually just saved all of his passwords.
Took the cookies, you said, right?
And this is what I'm not too sure about yet. So according to the Marco Style, he had two-factor authentication on his YouTube account,
which in theory should make it more protected.
Yeah. And if I get this right, if you were trying to log in from another computer, and getting you would to a Google account, the first thing you're going to have to do is have a two-factor authentication. And so he said that he had it. So at some point, somehow, from what I understand, this person was able to also get the two-factor authentication on top of the login information.
But I thought when you explained this to me before, you said that because the hackers took his cookies, when they went to log in, it appeared that on their computer that they were just already logged in. They might not have even had to do a two-factor.
Yes, that was a theory. And that was my one theory, was that they have at some point copied his cookies over during this process, like maybe when he went onto the site they downloaded or something, so that they get the two-factor authentication. The other way,
Big
as I read
bypass.
in a Forbes article, was that they could have a middleman, like a server or something, that is looking for communications to Marco style and grabbing it and redirecting it to the person. There was a Forbes article that has mentioned that this has been a scam thing, and that's what they are assuming is happening that way. So there's a couple different theories that we've said, but the main point is he did even have two-factor authentication, and it still went through, and they still logged in. Now, this is what I learned recently, was that he was actually able to get control of his YouTube account relatively fast, and YouTube and all of it other accounts, because he had his Twitter hacked and everything else, because and he was able to get a hold of it really relatively fast. But during the time frame, the person had the ability to set the channel as there's a YouTube option to set your YouTube channel as a brand channel. This is usually a channel made for like bigger companies, a setting for bigger companies that can have multiple users be working on the channel at once.
Oh.
And so this person set it as a brand channel, made himself a part of the brand channel, and then made himself primary admin of the channel, and therefore, even though Marco Style had access to the YouTube channel, the primary
he didn't have
person,
the power to stop it.
Yeah, and once you're logged into the YouTube, at no point are you required to have any kind of authentication to do the rest of this process. So that's where that was kind of like when you're changing permissions and things like that, and not requiring any kind of two-factor authentication verification, any kind of thing. That's where the YouTube kind of got sketchy, because that it sounds like that's definitely a weakness. There is once you're logged in you're logged into everything.
It seems that more places should have multi-factored authentications. I mean, even just that problem we had this past summer where they only had us type in an email address once on what was a legitimate site, but I mean, even spam sites, you have to enter your email twice, or they at least recognize like, oh, this isn't an email. But yet there are these sites that are for multi-million-dollar companies that exist where there's not multi-factor authentication. And I mean, just even to create the account, you don't even have to have a real email address, is the problem we ran into over the summer with that theater place.
Yeah. And so there has been so that was one thing, and then also it took a few days for Google to come to eventually get rid of the guy. Whatever reason that was, we don't know, but it took it took a while for that to boot the guy. In the process, the whoever hacked the account, they did a cryptocurrency scam that they ran on the account, and you could run they had a link to the account information, and you can verify the payments that are sent through that link, and apparently about $15,000 plus of cryptocurrency was scammed through this link, which as far as we know is primarily through this one channel that was hacked. So you had that whole problem, and this is something that has been going on multiple channels. You'll be able to find this cryptocurrency scam running currently.
And while it's scary that this can happen at all, what's the most startling to me is that even though the true owner of this Marco Style YouTube account, even though the owner and multiple other people were telling YouTube, the account has been hacked, this is a scam, it still took them days.
Mm-hmm.
That it shouldn't be that way, I don't think.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure. This is looking at the positive side of trying to give the benefit of doubt, is that they were trying to nail down the IP address or something to be able to stop this person altogether. And that's the only thing I can think of. But that obviously, if they're doing this, they probably have VPNs. They probably have all sorts of things that would delay if they were able to trace it.
I like your optimism.
That's the only thing, because I have to, like, with the amount, and what we're getting to next is how fast people are being banned and how fast these things are happening. Like, I have to believe that YouTube could have killed this pretty fast, unless it was trying to do something else.
Learn. Okay, I suppose that makes sense.
And that does move on to the next topic, which was people's YouTube account being banned for spamming. And this is Markiplier, a very famous YouTuber. He's running into he ran into an issue where he was streaming on YouTube, and part of the stream required a voting system, and there's no built-in voting system in the YouTube comments system where people are chatting during the live stream.
Not the way that Twitch has it.
Twitch has extensions. It doesn't have anything built in, but you like, and I'm not sure if YouTube might have it, but at least in this case they didn't have it set up.
Yeah.
What they were doing is they were doing a spam emotes. If you want this hat, if you want him to make this decision, you spam this emote. If you want him to make this decision, you spam this other emote. That was essentially the way it goes. So there was, and this is a very normal thing in live streams to do this. So it's not like a big, change up in how live streams are done.
And by spamming, you simply just mean sending a lot of what you're sending, repeated sending message,
this
or the emoticon or whatever
emote,
it is.
and the chat, and literally hundreds of people
who were participating
in this ended up getting their Google account banned, and not just their YouTube account, their actual Google account, their Gmail altogether was. And any services that are linked with Google, which
that's a big problem.
That's your Google Drive, your Google Photos, your YouTube. You have your contacts often. You can have your passwords synced up with it. Your two-factor authentications. Yeah.
So when you say what they were banned or suspended or whatever, ultimately the pictures at least didn't get deleted, for example, right? The pictures are still there.
They could be, from what I don't know exactly what a ban constitutes, but from what I understand, at least from the YouTube standpoint, is that the videos could be gone.
It might not be reversible, is what you're saying.
It might
potentially.
Be reversible.
We're not sure, but
whatever happens when you are banned, if there is anything gone, YouTube probably won't restore that, and that's assuming that they do reverse the decision altogether, which. People have already submitted appeals, and that the appeals have been rejected.
See, this really does shake the trust in companies like Google, which, sure, it's a free service that they provide, but at the same time, they are benefiting from your information, from you viewing the ads when you utilize their services. And I mean, they have all of your data that they collect, and at this point, they just use it freely. But to me, besides the potential, how heartbreaking it could be if you lose all of your photos, because a lot of people only take photos on their phones anymore and videos, and when you upload to YouTube, some people don't necessarily keep the originals if all of that was deleted. But the other thing that's scary is, for your bank accounts, for everything you create anymore, you need an email address associated.
Yeah.
And the way to recover passwords or to reset or to make changes to your account is often through your email address. And if they are now banning those email addresses, that's majorly problematic. It's not okay.
Yeah, and we'll get into that part and remedies after we go over this third issue. And but yes, when you have emails, and then also if you're thinking now YouTube, what we've talked about, the YouTube password generator. If you have a YouTube password generator, and then all of a sudden you generated a password for let's say your bank account, and you don't remember your password after your Google account gets banned,
you can't even get into your bank account.
Yeah, so there are remedies. This is something that I've thought about too that we'll get into in a second. But this is the third area is YouTube's terms of service has recently been updated, and people are flipping out. Now, YouTube terms of service, the reality is there's probably a lot of shitty things in there.
They also recently, I don't know how long ago, but they got rid of the "don't be evil."
Yeah,
clause, which was kind of stupid.
Their
because...
clause, well, that was like a company motto that they had.
Yeah, but it was nice, and there was nothing wrong with having it in there, because it wasn't even like this is something that could be interpreted. It was simply saying, "Don't be evil."
And what was it? Oh yeah, so the updated terms of service. Google has the YouTube, again, this is YouTube still, updated their terms of service where there's a couple of foreboding things. First of all, I want to preface this, there's probably already a lot of shitty things in there. But just adding to this, and this is what's been spreading around the last day, is they've added in to make sure that you recognize that Google does not have to do any of the things that it does. It does not have to host your videos on YouTube. It does not have to host your email. It doesn't have to save your photos. But in the YouTube terms of service, there was a statement essentially saying YouTube has no obligation to host your videos. Then also later on in the new terms of service, they added a clause in which YouTube can decide to close your account or your YouTube account and your Google account based off of whether you're commercially viable for them, which brings a whole new area of what is commercially viable.
Yeah, what does that mean?
Because there's many people that are using these services that are not monetizing their stuff. They have private YouTube playlists and channels, and or just non-monetized items, or might be being monetized through Patreon or other means so that they don't use the YouTube system. Like I know Jim Sterling, he's a very big one that he doesn't use monetization on his videos, and he even prevents any third-party monetization that might flag his videos by creating a system, what he called a lock. What is it? I can't remember. Like a YouTube lock. Essentially, the idea was, if let's say you had a video that had music in the background, and that music was a DMCA, that copyrighted, and they DMCA you, meaning that they take the person that owns the video or that music says your video is infringing on my copyright, I'm going to take the money from the video. So that's what it means by to be DMCA. DMCA is the Digital Rights Millennia Act, Digital Millennia Rights Act, which is essentially making it so that you can push copyright on online stuff. And so if you have a video that has a clip or some music that's copyrighted, and then that company wants to take the money from your video, they can very easily do that on YouTube. But Jim Sterling found out that if you had two different companies, or two different clips or musics from two different companies, and they both try to take claim it, then neither of them get any of the money. And
so
it's
he just consistently uses at least two that are prone to doing that.
If he thinks that something's going to get copyrighted, he will make sure that nobody's getting the money from it. So there's different things that might make it so that it is not commercially viable for YouTube, in the sense that we're thinking of. They're not making money off of this, right? Like, that's what we would consider not commercially viable as layman people. Who knows what their interpretation is, and
or their intention.
Yeah.
I think it is loosely termed in part so that they can just have whatever power they want when things come up. They can just, well, it's fine. It's within our terms of service that you've agreed to by using this.
Yeah, and this is, and just on top of the other things that happened within the recent week, just makes it all the more foreboding that you could just be doing something that you don't even recognize as a problem, like watching a Twitch streamer, and you could get your account banned. Or not Twitch streamer, watching a YouTube streamer, and you could get your YouTube, and who knows where that change, like when in the future that might change into something in another area. Maybe if you are linked to an app that Google all of a sudden doesn't want to be associated with anymore, but because you linked your account to that app, everybody that linked their account to that app they ban, or something, like just a hypothetical. Like all the different, the more they keep adding to reasons why they can shut off your Google account, like the more it is better to be prepared for scenarios like worst case disaster scenarios.
So what you're saying is backup.
So there is several things that can be done to make sure that if this were to happen for some reason, you were watching Markiplier and you decided to vote in his chat, and then you got your Google account banned, that it wasn't the worst thing to ever happen to you online. So one thing would be making sure to have a backup email. Now, this is actually very easily done in today's world, because oftentimes you can not only just have a second email, but you can have that email keep a copy of your everything that you're doing with your current email and have it continually synced up together. I have recently looked into the Microsoft account, because we were recently talking about Microsoft been doing good things there. We learned about not needing an alternate email to sign up into your Microsoft account, so you could use your Gmail email on the Microsoft account. And but when you do that, you can also add an alias email. So my email is, something at Gmail. You could also create an Outlook email on that same account. And so that when you sync your Gmail to your Microsoft account, that all the emails, if your Gmail somehow dies, you have a backup copy on your Microsoft account of all your emails stored.
When you say creating an alias, do you mean you're making something at Outlook?
Yeah, that would be an alias email.
Okay, but then how do you have it forward the messages, or do you have it what do you mean sync it?
You used to be able to forward messages over to automatically. You still can do that, but they even make it easier now, where it just syncs the messages, meaning that when you get an email to your Gmail account, it also Gmail automatically sends it also to your Outlook.
So as long as this still works after you're banned, you're all good. But what if your account is banned and then it can no longer even receive?
You won't receive any, like if your account is banned, like your Gmail account is banned, you probably won't receive anything that goes to your Gmail account. You would have to start using your Outlook account. The good thing is that all your previous emails up until that point, you still have.
Okay.
So that it's saving you a bit of, it's saving you a little bit there.
Okay. And what about backing up like the pictures? What do you recommend there?
Pictures, I'm still working on, because Google
There's
Photos.
not an efficient way to do that.
Right now, the best thing I can say is not only having it backed up to your Google Photos, but also making sure that you plug in your phone to your computer and download the pictures manually.
Either to your hard drive or to an external hard drive or to a jump drive or something that way.
Yeah.
A disk, some
whatever.
thing.
Yeah, you just back it up manually, and you make sure to do that on a regular basis before you clear out your phone. So that way, that right now that's the most preventative measure. And I'm looking to see if there's anything that syncs photos up, or if there's any kind of photo drive, because right now there's not a lot of alternatives to Google Photos. There's, I think, iCloud. The iPhone has a kind of Google Photos alternative, but like Microsoft doesn't have a Photos alternative. It just has a Drive alternative, which isn't the same thing.
Photo Bucket, I think, and some ones that are third party less common.
But but the thing about Google Photos is you could have unlimited storage.
And I think
it might be like a lower resolution than the original, but it's unlimited storage. While Photo Bucket or any of the drives that you use, they have like a gigabyte limit. And so that's not exactly the same thing as like a photo storage.
No.
That Google has. So that's I'm looking into that part. The other part is passwords. So having another browser, and this is actually, we're going to go into an update for Edge in the future, but Edge right now is a browser.
Edge? Oh, sorry, you're getting to it. A browser. Go on.
By Microsoft. It is the next iteration on top of Microsoft used to have Internet Explorer.
Oh.
And now they started working on Edge, which is a very different browser. It is not the same thing as Internet Explorer. It is a more current browser.
Edgier.
It is. And they're recently also coming up with a new update for Edge, which I think is pretty cool. But we'll get into that in a second. Edge, though, you can use to sync your favorite bookmarks and things like that from Chrome, because again, like if you Chrome should still work, but if you are logged into Chrome using your Gmail account, who knows what will happen to your bookmarks and everything else that is synced to your Gmail. So you want to back that up. The third thing is your passwords, to make sure that you have all of your passwords that is being saved to the browser too. Which there's two different ways. You can sync it to another browser like Edge. Right now, though, for some reason, Edge is not syncing the password. So you can download them from Chrome by going into your passwords, and then there's three little ellipses and the password settings, and then there's the three little ellipses in the Chrome browser once you go into your settings passwords.
You go into settings, so that would be a drop down from the top left?
Yeah, or top right.
Top right, okay.
But you
under the bookmarks, so when you click like the star and then
not bookmarks, you're going into just your general settings. So it's ellipses, settings, and then you can search just passwords, it'll pop up, and then you manage your passwords. You go to the ellipses again, that is right above all the passwords. It'll have like that first line, well, that's just stating like what the different categories are. Then there's a spot to say export passwords, and then you can export them to a CSV file. Sorry. It's a comma statement.
It's a
essentially it's a format. It's a format that can make it read by Excel or something like that.
Okay.
It puts it in a format that can be read by Excel or a spreadsheet document. That it'll just have like a comma value it is CVS comma value. I don't remember. Anyways, yeah, it makes it so that it can be read by Excel, so that you could just open up an Excel sheet and all your passwords are there. With your username and your password. Now, those would be the important things to make sure that you're having backed up and synced. Now, the syncing part for the passwords can also be done not by Edge, but there's a new update to Edge coming in January. And right now there's a beta out that you can download. And this new Edge version is actually based off of Chrome. It's there's the Chromium project, which is Google's open source material that they use to build Chrome. Well, Microsoft just used that to build a new Edge browser, which now makes Edge compatible with Chrome extensions, which is really nice. And I tested the sync function, and it does actually sync the passwords with Google Chrome. So if you are very worried, you can always download the Edge browser Chrome beta. Yeah, and then that way you have your passwords being synced on two different browsers. You have your favorites being synced on two different browsers, and you have two different emails, and your emails are being synced on two different services. Therefore, God forbid something happens, you have a backup. And it goes the other way around. If Microsoft for some reason does something super shitty, you have a backup on the Chrome. So like it goes both ways. And contacts too. Contacts can be done. Microsoft has a People's app that can sync all your contacts from your Google Chrome or your Gmail account.
That is nice.
So that is the backup, and that is also in part talking about the new Edge browser, which I think is pretty cool because Edge had like a couple of cool features, but it was very problematic as a browser. Like it wasn't really that great of a browser experience. But now with the power of the Chrome engine, the Edge browser I think might actually end up being good. I just started testing it today. But I like the fact that you can now use Chrome extensions on your Edge browser, because I use like the Google Keep and the Google Calendar extensions and things. So that's been pretty good. But right now the new browser does not have the ink where you can use your pen, or you can cut and clip articles from the web. That the Edge browser is kind of famous for. So they're still working on that. Hopefully by January, when the official version is going to launch, that's all implemented too.
That I remember, I thought you had talked about the Edge browser before, but I couldn't remember. And now that you say that was it, that sounds really neat. I looked up what CSV stands for, comma separated values.
Comma separated.
It makes it so that it can go into a tabular format, basically, like you were saying, Excel or whatever.
And that's the major stories for today. Kind of a scary dystopian-ish, making sure that you have backup. It's the time for having a cloud backup for your cloud, essentially.
Or a hard local backup for your cloud.
Yeah, a hard local backup is always the best thing.
But
that should be in theory, the first defense should be the hard local backup of everything. Then you have the next step. But right now with this day and age, like everything's cloud based. A lot of people don't even have a second drive anymore. They don't
I've stopped backing up my photos, and this has gotten me thinking that I desperately need your help to back up my stuff again.
So there's going to be room in this environment where people will need a secondary version that syncs from one platform to another everything, so that if one platform goes bad, you still have a secondary platform that you can turn to. And that's just unfortunately the nature of living in the world that we live in today.
Especially when these services are free, which is nice. But yeah, and they change their terms of service without people really even, ever reading them. A lot of people don't read them. Or keep up with what has changed when it does change. We don't even notice when things have changed. But luckily there are some people that do keep track of those things, and you've given some great advice. Definitely something I need to take action on in the very, very near future.
The other news is well, these aren't really news. These are just the little cool things, and this is actually a little couple pluses for Google, and maybe even for our little podcast that we have here. You know how we've mentioned a couple of things that YouTube could do?
Yeah, to improve.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you remember what some of those were?
No, I don't.
So remember on you know how on a Chromecast you can set up a queue for your YouTube videos.
I remember one of them now. You can't set up a queue on your phone, right?
On your phone I actually haven't checked, but on your laptop or on the web browser you can now queue up videos and create a quick playlist.
That would be great, because on my phone, on my YouTube account, I literally have a playlist called Queue to Play Now, because there's no queue that you can just make on your. And once I start doing dishes, I have my phone up on the stand so I can watch it with my audio visual entertainment while I'm doing the dishes. My hands are wet. I don't want to have to sit here and select a new video, dry my hands every time. So having a queue is really important, and I've unfortunately had to use a playlist up to this point.
And so I'll say that a few months ago, earlier this year, we mentioned it, and
it's at least on PC.
It's on the web app on PC.
We'll have to double check and hope that it's on the phone.
Yeah, but there you go. That's YouTube is listening to us, because we just had earlier another feature that we mentioned. I can't remember what it was, but we mentioned another feature on one podcast before that ended up coming to fruition shortly after.
Whether it's us that speak the echoes of others or others who are echoing us, or most likely just coincidentally, we're all frustrated with these things, and somehow, whatever way Google is at least hearing or acknowledging, recognizing, and at least making a few changes. Hopefully they'll hear the things.
Yeah. You may have noticed on the web page that Google has updated their home landing page for you, and it's a bit nicer and sleeker.
Like the Google search bar?
No, the YouTube home.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
YouTube home landing page, where it shows you your recommended videos and your
yeah, their algorithms are interesting. That's a whole other thing, though.
The other is I unchecked it just now.
Another thing about YouTube, though?
It was another YouTube thing.
Something they've changed positively, I hope you were saying or alluding to. You don't remember what it is either?
I accidentally undid.
And there's no undo. Is that?
Oh yeah, there is an undo. Google Lens. Yes. So also, if you notice that the app especially if you have a Pixel, the Google app now has the ability. They've updated the Google app essentially. You have swipe down for all your options are in a swipe down menu, and not only that, if you just tap, it auto.
Wait, you don't mean tap? You mean hold?
Tap and hold. Yeah. Hold. If you tap and hold from the camera viewfinder, it automatically starts utilizing Google Lens,
which is the image search reference.
Yes.
It searches for similar information and pictures on the internet.
Yeah, and then and if you use it on text, it can translate text.
Ooh, it is highlighting the text. Nice.
It can translate text. It can find things on the internet. It can. And this is just a little bit of quality of life, because before you had to go to the camera app or your photos app, and then you'd have to select more and then select lens. Well, now just
gestures,
now from the Google viewfinder, you can do it automatically. Or from the camera viewfinder.
Sounds good.
So those are just the quality of life improvements on top of the daunting list of problems that may or may not occur to people.
Yeah.
Well, that was this week's podcast. Hopefully you enjoyed, and hopefully that backup noise doesn't sound in the audio.
Well, I don't think it was.
But have a great week, and we will see you next time.
Bye.
I also don't have this up to stop the recording, so you're gonna have to listen to us talk for a little bit longer while I look for.
So dreadful.
Because I had to move the computer away because I realized after 20 episodes that it was picking up the fan.
We should do that thing where you review your work and critique yourself to make improvements. We're learning lessons, I guess. We'll do it you'll do it for us. Is it done?